For belt optimization, there's a few things we really want to pay close attention to. With a dual belt draper, one of the characteristics that sets it apart from the single belt is on the dual belt, the drive for both belts is right here in the middle. With that, we've got some added support pieces. This goes on to the rolls, this goes on to the cutter bar. They're supposed to be overlapped about like that. What happens over time, as the header gets some age and fatigue, that can wear out or get flexed enough where that will fall below that support. When it's setting like that, now everything, all the support structures underneath the header are now rubbing hard against the draper belt, which could either stall your draper belts or wreck your belts rather quickly. When this is sitting on top like it should, that will hold the right distance of your draper belts to your front seal plates. Now if these start wearing out, your belt will have, there'll be a very sharp edge on there that can start cutting your belt. With cleaning out your belts periodically throughout the day, especially when running beans, single belt or dual belt, raise your header all the way up on your combine, raise your cutter bar pressure all the way up, which will bring the cutter bar to its highest position, and with your header running in that position, the dirt will fall out the back between the two belts. Your belt speeds you're looking for is anywhere from 160 to 220 RPMs. I like to run my belts as slow as I can get away with. So if I'm running into a spot in the field where I've got a triangle piece and I'm cutting a narrow strip, I can take it on a side of the header versus the center, and it won't shoot the crop underneath the opposing belt. If it's spinning really fast, it'll tend to shoot the crop all the way across the center belt onto or underneath the opposing belt. Also, on this belt tension system, the adjustment rod that adjusts the belt tension is right here. When you adjust this to adjust your belt tension, it pulls the top and the bottom of your belt all in one pull, so there's no alignment that needs to be adjusted. And with a dual belt draper versus a single belt, with a dual, it pulls both of your belts at the same time. Single, it does also, but your adjustment for your single belt draper is on the back, and it has a screw that sticks out similar to that, but it will be level with the gauge around it, the guard around it, when the belt tension is correct. On the flex draper, the 640 with a dual belt, your gauge is going to be right here in the back. When you're in the green is right where you want to be. If you're loose, you're going to be on this side. If you're tight, you're going to be on this side. Note, with all these drapers, be either single belt or dual belt, for winter storage, you're going to want to loosen that tension all the way up. That way the belts can relax and not set up in their spot. With your center belt, there's an adjustment on the right-hand side, so your right and left is always determined from sitting in the operator's seat of the equipment. So there's an adjustment on the side that will adjust the tension of the belt. It's just a nut you turn. It looks just like the side draper belt, and it also tensions it the same equally on each side. There's a plastic skid plate below that center belt with 2 pins on the later serial number and 2 bolts on the early serial number headers. That platform will swing down out of the way and allow you to clean the dirt out from underneath. That way it'll keep the dirt from building up underneath that center belt. I would recommend doing that every morning or at least once a day. Behind that we have our feed drum. You'll notice that this one does have steel fingers. We're always told to run plastic fingers with the rotor combine, but with the draper, there's enough crop material flowing through that the plastic fingers don't hold up. The newer drapers have, on the drums, they'll have stripper plates and some spiral fingers on the side to aid in feeding. There is an adjustment on those stripper plates to the flighting on the side of the center tube. It's about 3/16 of an inch, so it's relatively close. Earlier ones do not have that. They also offer kits to update the early serial numbers to add or to aid in feeding. With adjusting your reel, there's a lever on the side that to move it will tilt your fingers to make them more aggressive or less aggressive for pulling crop up from the ground and raking it into the cutter bar. There's a lever on each side of your split reel and on your longer single reel headers. With the split reel on this Draper, there's a few other things we're really going to want to look at. One is we're going to want to bleed the air out because the center tends to ride up higher than the sides. One side note to mention, when you're raising up the reel on your flex Draper, you're going to notice if the header's not running, the reel is going to tend to run backwards. That's normal. That's nothing to worry about. It's just the nature of the beast. For bleeding the air out of your reel, there's a couple of things. It works a lot better with two people, one to run the combine and one to run the bleed lever outside the cab by the header. You're going to want to tie in to your test port on the side of your cylinder, and then in the middle of your Draper head, underneath the center, there's two knobs that you have to open up to let the oil bypass the master cylinders to be able to send oil to the outside. At that point, you will raise your reel up and only the sides will come up. You don't want to go up too far, but enough to get oil out to the cylinders, and then you crack your bleed valve. The sides of your reel will go down, pushing out all the air. I would like to make a side note when bleeding out the reel. This bolt right here is set to hold this yoke right onto this shaft. I have had it where things have worn and vibrated enough where the grooves of the shaft, the splines of the shaft, cut that bolt. So when we raised up the corners of the reel to bleed everything out, it actually separated this part and the reel came crashing down. So when you do that, it might not be a bad idea to check that bolt beforehand. You may have to replace it so that does not happen to you.